Okay. That was without my glasses.
The school, right.
So we're recording whenever you're ready.
I still believe in starting properly.
So what's the final decision on the AAA thing?
When we meeting was.
I know, I hate it, I agree with you. It's just that I don't wanna call another teacher into agreement because if I do it for the AAA stuff, then they're gonna ask me all my forms. Huh? Oh, we always do that. We already do that already. Right.
I'm trying to keep stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that, and suddenly they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, where was one more down?
About 300 apples.
A lot of times it's
Is it really? Good.
I got that.
There should be.
Yeah, you and Rob both.
How much you pick up?
Made an apple crisp today. It's really good.
Good. Ralph. You still haven't gone to the other after you watch that's what I thought.
This thing stinks. Bad.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see.
Okay, at 7 p.m. on August 20th, I'll bring the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order, starting with a roll call from my left. Chip Hussey. Jim Rolls. Vaughn Morgan.
Justin Duraki, Paul Sanderson.
We have a quorum and the meeting is being recorded. The first thing on the agenda is public hearings, of which we have two. The first is the acceptance of a donation to the police department.
This is for National Night Out from Mercedes-Benz of Portsmouth, which is in Greenland. Donated $500 to National Night Out, which was held last Tuesday and was a big success.
Okay, I will open the hearing for public comment. Anybody does not want to receive this money? Anybody? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I'll move that we accept the $500 donation from Mercedes-Benz Portsmouth for National Night Out. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes. All right, the second item is one of our favorites here. Renumbering and naming of roads in accordance with RSA's 231, 133, and 133A. At our last meeting, we asked the concerned residents to come back to the board, hopefully with new names for roads containing the Great Bay names. Two of the suggested changes were Blue Heron Hill and Winter Way, which do not pass the 9/11 committee standards, right, as the town already has a Blue Heron Way, is that right? And a Winter Way.
We did receive another suggestion in today for Great Bay Drive East and West for Oyster Cove.
Okay. All right, I will open.
Those weren't even ours.
No, I thought we suggested
Blue
Winter
Heron.
Hill.
Yeah, and Blue
All right,
Heron's
I will
already on
open.
our
Hold
street.
on.
Right,
One
Winter
second.
Hill, but we have Winter Way
Oh,
already, that's
okay.
what he was saying.
Pheasant Ridge, Quail Run, Autumn Ridge, these were all.
Oh, yeah,
sent in
those
letters
are
to you?
still okay.
Okay.
Those were the two that,
Gotcha.
Okay,
That's the
so
like-
I will open the public hearing for any comments that anybody would like to make.
My name is Tom DeCoster. I live on Great Bay Drive East. Subsequent to the last hearing that we were at, all the residents of Great Bay East and West were invited to a personal meeting. We had extended conversations with all kinds of opinions. Following that, there was online communication with email list of 20 people who all lived there, back, forth, upside down, inside out, you name it. As a result of all of that, I penned a one-page consolidated view, as I understood it, of all of those conversations for the benefit of the board to consider. Take about 5 minutes, one page. I hope you'll be patient, and after that, if you have any questions of me, I'd be more than happy to answer, as well as any other resident who has any other opinion, okay?
Okay.
The roadway, currently known as Great Bay Drive East and West, was created as a pathway along the water's edge of our town by the Abenaki Indians. Their hundreds of years of tribal use created a nearby footpath in Greenland, today we know as Great Bay Drive East and West. The first non-Indian discoveries of our community location was a visit by the English explorer Martin Pring in 1603 as he sailed his ship up the Piscataqua River into Great Bay in search of sassafras, a plant highly prized in the 1600s for its great medicinal value. His visit was 20 years before the first true settlers established themselves as permanent fishermen on the Isle of Shoals and Odeon Point. Additionally, we are constantly reminded of the long cultural history of our Great Bay roadway by the graveyard of early settlers and landowners that still exist on the shoreline of Great Bay Drive. To dismiss or ignore the importance and significance of the long cultural history of our Great Bay shoreline is a disservice to all who honor and cherish our historic name and location. With all of this culture and historical significance attributed to our community shoreline, it should be easy to understand why the name Great Bay should not be so easily discarded onto the rubble pile of modern bureaucratic convenience. It is understandable that the initial decision to eliminate anything other than Bayside Road name was an easy way to overcome any confusion created by having many roads with similar names in the same general vicinity. And the board is to be commended for a great job of accomplishing this so far. Your work to date has eliminated almost 100% of the potential confusion by the name change of most Great Bay Road to Dearborn Road, Bay Ridge to Osprey Court, plus name changes for Bear Shore Drive, Bayview Terrace, and even the elimination of East and West names to the current Great Bay Drive. Two only suggested names that we offered which were Great Bay Drive or Great Bay Cove. However, to completely obliterate the culturally and historically significant name Great Bay from all roads in Greenland would be a great disservice to our neighborhood and our community at large. The most logical road name change for the current remaining section of Great Bay Road would be Bayside Road, since it already connects as an automatic extension to Bayside Road, as well as the fact that 1 mile of its historic name has already been eliminated with only 0.6 of a mile remaining. It is also historically interesting to note that the depot station house located next to the tracks on Great Bay Road is already named the Bayside Depot long ago, as recorded in the New Hampshire Atlas dated 1892. The interested parties on the remaining section of Great Bay Road have also already offered substitute names other than Great Bay Road if the current name is unavailable. Additionally, the residents of Bayside Road have yet to be offered the opportunity to change their conflicting road name. In any event, no matter what, we believe at least one road should retain the name Great Bay within it. We also submit that if we were to choose Great Bay Cove as an alternative name, that name would be so significantly different and easily distinguishable from Bayside Road that no confusing conflict would exist. Although Chief Lorenz expressed opinion is that a confusing conflict would still exist, we would gladly have a contention tested by any independent group of fellow citizens. I'm not aware of any incident in town historical records of any police or fire personnel ever mistakenly going to Bayside Road address instead of a Great Bay Drive address on an emergency call, or vice versa. We simply do not accept the notion that emergency personnel would not be able to distinguish the difference between those two distinctly different names. Just ask any disinterested or independent person this question. Would you be able to distinguish which location to go to in an emergency if you were given one of these two names? If you assume that emergency responders cannot distinguish the difference between the names Great Bay Drive or Cove and Bayside Road, I submit that any independent observer would say that you are seriously underestimating and insulting our emergency responders' current intelligence. Lastly, we appreciate the fact that the unwanted task that you've been asked to oversee is not an easy one. However, the citizen's voice should not be unduly ignored. Flexibility is not a bad option to consider. Historic names matter deeply to our community. Let's not change that. Thank you. Copies.
Thank you. Thank you. Your report is well made and well thought out. I really appreciate that. Appreciate the history lesson too. Does anybody else have any comments they'd like to make? Please just state your name and your address. Go ahead.
Could I stand or can I remain
You
seated?
can be made.
Thank you. My name is Bonnie Jean Terenzi. I live at 100 Great Bay Drive West in Greenland. To our elected selectmen and others, as property owners, we value and cherish the historic pride we feel to be living along the Great Bay estuary within our town of Greenland, New Hampshire. Some of us are most fortunate to live along the water's edge, while others enjoy their unique and scenic proximity to the bay. We are quite disheartened to learn from our elected selectmen and others that we may soon face the possibility of having to change our addresses along with its tedious inconveniences of time, work, and cost involved. Based upon the combined intellect, hidden agendas, and questionable reasoning of our elected selectmen and others, they are now demanding, rather than suggesting, the elimination of the name Bay. Apparently, there are too many roads and destinations having that name. As stated in previous board meetings, quote, many of our emergency responders may get confused or lost, which is a serious safety issue, unquote. Obviously, is there any documentation that this ever happened? If so, how many times? Perhaps investing in more state-of-the-art tracking devices, coupled with the hiring of more properly trained emergency responders, would rectify the safety concerns for more than the illogical alternative plan. If big cities like Atlanta, Georgia, can manage with their countless streets, roads, and boulevards, which contain the name Peachtree, why can't our small town handle Bay? The bigger picture of changing road names and addresses involves the vast amount of consequential problems. Federal postal carriers, UPS, FedEx, fuel deliveries, home businesses, supply trucks, financial, trust documents, bank accounts, geological map changes, property surveys, medication deliveries, cost of road signs, the list goes on. How long does it take to update GPS? In closing, based on reasons previously stated, we property owners living on or very close to the Great Bay Estuary choose to retain our rightful address of Great Bay Drive or Great Bay Cove. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Do you want to give a copy of that to us for the record?
I don't have a copy. I have the original if you want it.
Okay.
Or they can make it.
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Ed Humbrecht. I live on Great Bay Road. Just a quick question to the selectmen. Didn't we leave the last meeting with your suggestion that, or idea that the word Great Bay shouldn't be used in any of the roads and we should come up with new names? Okay, thank you.
Actually, kind of correct that, the Bay could not be used.
Bay, okay, Bay.
Bay.
And my question to the people on Great Bay Drive, east and west, what would be the problem with Great Cove?
We would accept Great Bay Cove as,
I'm not talking Great Bay Cove, I just said, we're trying to eliminate Bay. It has produced problems. So, what about Great Cove? Did that come into conversation at all?
I don't think it does. I don't think it does in the Great Bay as a recognizable entity and body of water. If you call it something else, it doesn't have the same historical meaning or geographic meaning or anything else. I would also contend that you've done a great job of eliminating almost all the confusion of all the bay names, Bay Terrace, Bay View, Bay this and that. So all of those are really all gone, and you're down to just basically this decision, which I think is, given the historical significance and the community's strength of their united opinion, you ought to give very, very serious consideration to the fact that the conflict or confusion has been almost entirely removed already. And
Tom, if I could just, excuse me, if I could just, I'd like to editorialize on David Hagner, Great Bay Drive West. Tom in his essay has hit on a sentiment that seems to prevail here, and for most of the unfamiliar faces, I'm going to assume you're Great Bay Road, so it's nice to meet you. One thing that has been, that seems to have traction is that before I speak in my own interest as somebody that wants to retain the Great Bay Road, just speaking in the town's interest, I really do think we should be very, very careful before we just get rid of such a coveted geographical proper noun name. Great Bay is the central feature of this town. And I almost, I'm glad that I see faces from Great Bay Road because we missed the last meeting, but my first reaction is, how about a coin toss? somebody should have it. Either you guys should have it, or we should have it. But I do think this town needs to retain that geographical name in any case. Now, we feel we should have it because
You live on the bay.
because we go right along the bay. Eventually, our little strip is the terminus of the bay, but honestly, we do have also what seems to be a consensus name up our sleeve, and if we're relegated to taking that, I would like to see you guys at least keep Great Bay Road. Now, I don't think you should have it, I think we should have it. But I think somebody should have it, and I really would appeal to the board to at least keep that name somewhere in this town, whether it's Great Bay Road or Great Bay Drive. That is Greenland, that's central to our town. It really should stay. I don't think there's any confusion between Great Bay Road and Bayside, or, at least there's not in my mind. I have a confession to make, by the way. I confuse the damnedest roads. I will be telling somebody how to get to Stratham from our place, right, that goes through Tidewater Farm. And you know what I'll tell them? Go over the railroad tracks and take a right onto Allen Farm. Now, that's Orchard Hill, but for some reason in my head, it's Allen Farm, and Nancy will stop me and say, what? So, we'll confuse things for the darndest reasons, and not necessarily, I would echo Tom's sentiment that there really is probably no confusion between Bayside and Great Bay. I also tend to, I'll mix it up even more by saying I don't even think Dearborn should have stayed. Great Bay, probably in my mind, should have stayed 33 all the way down to where we are.
Yep.
Okay? Because if at least if the ambulance has gotten it wrong,
That's right.
he's dumped down on the Great Bay Drive east and west, and he's taken Great Bay Road all the way to get there. And by the way, if you're going down 33 and you're a prospective property owner and you want to be a riparian landowner in Greenland and you want to go see where the water is, and you're going between Portsmouth and Exeter, what road are you going to look for? Great Bay Road. So you're driving on, that's how we got here. That's how Nancy and I got here. I wanted to know where the water was. It was Great Bay Road, and you follow Great Bay Road and it dropped you out onto Great Bay Drive east and west. And a screaming ambulance, if it hasn't figured it out, so if I were whoever was holding on to the namesake Dearborn, I would kind of feel like I have a pretty weak case. My feeling is Great Bay Road should go all the way over the tracks onto Great Bay east and west. So we may be beyond that. I realize I'm just kind of coming in new, but just to echo a couple sentiments. Number one, if we have to change our name, give it to them, but keep it Great Bay something, please. I think it's a big, big part of this town. It's a big part of the history. And I don't know, David, is it time to kind of disclose what we at least would be content with? But,
Yeah, sure.
because the shell fishing line goes right.
Wait a minute, not all of us
Oh, no, okay, then that's fine, Callie. But at least there seems to be some gravity toward oyster something. The shellfish line does go right through the point that we're on. In the cove, that's where shellfishing is permitted. Past your house, Bonnie, it's not. Oyster something, Oyster Cove, seems to have a little bit of traction. It's generic. We also would like to keep something that's distinctive and that gives a flavor of waterfront ownership because it keeps property up. But anyway, Susan, I'll see.
Okay, thank you. By the way, I just want to say, it isn't us that's done the hard work of trying to eliminate the safety problems here. It's the 9/11 committee. They're the ones that deserve the credit for that, because they worked very hard on this. Hasn't been easy, but I appreciate your comments. Yes.
I'm Susan Wallowitz on 50 Great Bay Drive. I'm just going to speak as a fourth grade teacher who spends a lot of time on New Hampshire history. Great Bay is very important to the state of New Hampshire. And I think, like Dave says, it needs to be somewhere. It's really important to the kids, the historical point of views of Great Bay and what's being taught in the fourth grade classroom. It matters to kids.
Thank you. Yes.
Dick Penny. I probably lived on the Great Bay longer than anyone that's sitting here. I live on 21 Great Bay Drive East. And all those times, I can't remember a time when there's been any problem with the ambulances or any other emergency services finding out where they needed to go. And I think that it's a historical name. It's going to put a real workload on any of us that live there to change the address over something that probably doesn't need to be done. And I'm vehemently opposed to any change in the name of that road. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Jody Thomas, I live on 33 Great Bay Drive East. The town of Greenland should be proud of its location on Great Bay and should have some signage or road name indicating this valued asset. One can and should balance the need for safety with a determination to retain historically and geographically significant names. To lose the term Great Bay from all of our streets in Greenland would be deleting some of our geographical significance to solve the potential confusion of a dispatcher telling a responder to go to Great Bay Cove Drive Road versus Bayside Road. They do not sound any more alike than countless other names in our town. We appreciate the need to not have a Great Bay Drive and a Great Bay Road in town. But as the residents of the one Great Bay thoroughfare which travels along the shore of Great Bay, we unanimously feel we should retain the Great Bay name, either drive or cove.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah. Karen Bailey, 338 Great Bay Road. I feel like we've done this now. This is the third meeting, and I think there needs to be a resolution. Everyone in the room has to change their address. We've established this 3 times now. Everyone has a new number. So there is no argument to it's an expense or it's a hassle. We're all in it together. Number 2, I think we all appreciate the need to want to hold on to the name you have or that's familiar. And I do agree that Great Bay is part of our community. I appreciate the opinion of let's flip a coin, let's make a decision, and then let's move on so that all of us can begin to make the necessary changes. I don't believe that any one of us has a claim greater than the other. And I appreciate that those that live on Great Bay feel they do. But quite frankly, there are other arguments to the contrary. Great Bay Road has been named earlier than Great Bay East and West. Great Bay East and West automatically has to change their name because you can't have an East and a West, so you already have a name change anyway. Therefore, if we're all in the same boat, could we flip a coin? Could we make a decision? Could those who keep that name exit and those that need to remain remain, take a vote, pick the name, and we're out of here in 10.
Thank you very much. We will make a decision tonight. This is, we won't go on any further as far as this part of it goes. I would ask Tara, do you have any comments about any of their, anything that they said?
My thing with history, so when you do history, it gets me right here. I'm fine with the coin flip. I'm fine with one of them keeping Great Bay, as long as there's only one. I do feel like it may be a little unfair because Great Bay Drive didn't get a chance, and Great Bay East didn't get a chance, and Great Bay West didn't get a chance. So, but we are down to the final 2. So.
Okay. I'll entertain one more comment before I close the hearing.
Barbara Fletcher, Great Bay Road. I've been in this town my entire life, and I've lived on Great Bay Road my entire life. And I know Great Bay East and West, that's a new road. Great Bay Road it's been here since Greenland's been here. So,
The Abenakis would disagree.
well, that was a path, you said. This has been a road. But you've already changed it from 33 to Dearborn Road, and that was hard too. But I think that if we have to change our name, I think that we should call it Gowan Lane, because it's just going to be from the corner down. Is it going to go past the railroad tracks, or is it going to go down to the bay, down towards Wheaton? Great Bay Road always stopped at the railroad tracks. But I don't know what the new,
Goes a spec beyond.
Yeah, right, it goes in the intersection.
Okay.
I would ask one more question if you'll indulge me, and that is, or make a comment. If in fact you are prepared to choose between Great Bay Road and Great Bay Drive, that's fine with me. If you're not, and you're suggesting that they're totally unacceptable and would be forced to choose a different name, I would ask that we not be forced to do that now, as there's a lot of people on Great Bay Drive who would not agree with Oyster Cove, I can tell you that. Wouldn't even discuss it, so. But I guess you need to make your.
Where are they?
You're sitting here.
That's what we're here for.
They don't know that that's been brought up.
We started at 6 weeks ago.
This is the third meeting we've had.
That's right.
We're making a
Yeah.
decision
Get it
tonight.
done.
Yes.
Whether, I know, everybody had their chance.
Can I ask one more question? Wouldn't it make sense to extend Bayside along Great Bay Road?
No.
Instead of having a
Forks,
second one?
yeah, forks.
No, it's
Down at the end of
already,
Bayside Road, there's a fork.
yeah.
The fork takes a right, and actually goes down to the bay technically, down to private camps.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's difficult, it's not easy to make the change. I can tell you, you certainly can't look at us and say, well, you guys have never had to do it. I've had to do it, he's had to do it, he's had to do it. So we understand, and I had a business. So I had to change all my business cards and everything else, so I know it's not easy. But again, I will reiterate where I come from, which is safety trumps, as far as I'm concerned. My job as a selectman, safety trumps just about everything here. So I go with what my 9/11 commission, this is what we hired the board.
If I may, just one more thought on that, Lon. If the folks who are going to be affected, I mean, risk management is everything in life, from crossing a crosswalk to financial decisions. You have a quorum of people who have communicated to you that this is a risk they are willing to accept. I am willing. 911 itself is only a generation or two implemented. We are less than a generation from probably some game-changing technology that's going to have us. You know, in Japan, they don't even have street names. So,
I understand, I hear you.
and yet we're about to lose a name forever.
I
So,
understand that. But what I'm telling you, maybe a risk you're willing to accept, or maybe everybody here is willing to accept. It's not a risk I am willing to accept. And you have elected me to do my job as a selectman in this town. Now, believe me, this is not a job I get paid a hell of a lot of money for. It comes down to 9 cents an hour by the time everything is all said and done. And we get shot at all of these meetings. It's not easy. We don't like making the change. But I have to do, as this board has to do, what they feel in their hearts is the right thing to do. When, you know as well as I know, you're never going to please all the people all the time. But I have to do what I feel is the right thing to do. I had to change my name and, my address and everything else. So this is something I back my 9/11 commission for. They have been out there, they have run sirens to emergency, and they have. This has happened. There has been documentation where they've had to run to places that they couldn't find in the dark because the numbers were mixed up, or that towns from outside had to come in and couldn't find roads because they had similar names. So, I can apologize that we have to do this, but we have to do it. And I'm sorry, but it has to be done. So we are going to make a decision tonight on this, okay? And of course, I'm up for election next year. You can knock me right out of the box.
I would just remind the board that the chief has agreed that one of the two roads would be okay.
Okay.
Great Bay.
Now, has anybody got a coin? That would come up, all right?
The problem I would have is that not all the residents are here.
Yeah, but we gotta make a decision.
We have
tonight.
made a decision.
This is the third meeting.
Yeah.
Third meeting.
Oh, I'm saying it's the third meeting. I'm saying no bays, period. Everybody had to go before you, realize they couldn't have bay in their name. It's just the order you guys got picked. to redo your names.
Right, but
Why
that's the
would that-
government art of making sure that everybody's miserable. We're at least competent to agree that we're half of us.
Classes on that.
All right. I'm gonna defer to you as far as the Great Bay name goes. What,
I'm okay with it safety-wise with one. As far as fairness, I'm leaving that to you guys.
okay, with one.
Great Bay's
So in other words, if Great Bay Road prevails on the toss of the coin, they remain Great Bay Road. If we prevail on the toss of the coin, we remain Great Bay Drive.
But you're all still getting new numbers.
Right.
Okay.
Are you eliminating the east and the west?
Yes, east and west gonna have
Right,
to go
it's just all
away.
one big Great Bay Drive. You guys are good with that?
Yes.
Is everybody
Yeah.
good with that?
Well, who's
We at
what's
least,
that?
we all share a 50.
I have a
chance of getting what we want,
Jim has-
right?
Bayside is still gonna be, I mean, in my mind, Bayside and Great Bay, whatever, is distinct enough that it's not a problem.
I agree.
Those two are not a problem, but we haven't gotten to Bayside to kind of evaluate if that's gonna stay or not. But I agree with you, Great Bay and Bayside are different enough, that a single one of each could stay.
Okay?
And along the same line, do the Great Bay Road people have any feeling about Bayside?
What, having Bayside, come around?
No, we don't want it,
I don't think you should.
because of the continuation down to Bex.
Okay.
All right, so are we flipping a coin? Is that the consensus?
No,
You just.
take a vote.
No, can't vote.
Flip a
No, we
coin.
can't.
No.
Okay, I'm an independent person. Round it, flip the coin.
Well,
Great Bay Road will take heads. You
Okay.
guys good with tails?
Is that fair?
Heads?
Doesn't matter.
Great Bay Road is heads.
And I want everybody to
don't
go
care.
away happy on this.
We don't care. I would rather see the whole coin flip and everything conducted right up here with you guys. You guys.
Stand right up here. Okay, right in front, Ralph. You're almost set.
He's getting near the edge.
Right. So the clarification, Great Bay Road is heads, Great Bay Drive is tails.
Right. Everybody agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Road is heads, drive is tails.
All right,
Flip the coin.
unbelievable.
Heads. All right?
All right.
So be it. I want to thank you all for coming.
All right, well, we need to know what Great Bay Drive is gonna be called.
When we exited, you guys need to have that
You wanna take a picture of that, so you go to the record?
Yeah.
Keep videotaping.
Thank you.
All right, you still have to do the other one. Yeah, that was very good.
Life goes on.
Tom?
All right.
And if you take a second.
Oh, goodness. This is a nightmare.
Can we get together outside then and?
I just need to. Which one we settle out?
No, we lost
We still have to pick Great Bay. Right, Oyster Cove.
Attention. Attention, or I'll have Tara clear the office. Please, we need a name.
Okay, you need a name.
We need a name.
Before we do, one
It was
question. One question.
Go ahead.
Chief, if Oyster Cove were right next to Osprey Cove, is that too close?
It would not be.
It would be okay?
It would not be. That would be acceptable for 911 standards.
Same thing, Paul, it's gonna dump you out on
You asked
one or
that
the other
question-
anyway.
You asked that question last time, if there's
I-
street next to street.
I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, it's appropriate.
Okay? So what did we come up with? What do you?
I would like to nominate Oyster Cove But I know there's a little bit of,
There's also Water's Edge.
there's also Water's Edge, but we've kind of bandied it about.
Have we already done this?
Yeah.
We've
Without the
taken
apostrophe.
we've taken a poll, and so far, the leading contender was Oyster Cove. The next one was Water's Edge, and then there were a bunch of others.
David, let me respond by telling you that a lot of people didn't respond because we didn't take that seriously.
I know.
We were simply focused on the issue of either Great Bay
Right.
Drive, or Great Bay Road, and we really have no consensus.
Right, I do. I remember, Tom, you said you didn't care what the name was. I remember
That's
that.
correct.
So,
Well, a lot of other
if you want us to
people did.
vote, we'll raise our hands. I mean,
Okay, all right. Vote for Oyster Cove.
that's an alley.
Huh?
No
time to wait, no time to get
Change
consensus.
it.
You don't like it, you get
All
down.
right, we're gonna vote for Water's Edge.
Oh, I like one.
Oh, boy.
What are we doing?
Water's Edge.
Water's Edge.
Water's Edge.
No problem. Raise your hand, Dan.
I already did.
Water's Edge.
Well, then, all right, Water's Edge.
No, I already
Water's
did.
Edge.
You need a motion?
Make a motion, all right, we need a motion? Okay, we haven't done Great Bay Road yet, that stays, we don't actually don't have to change
Oh, we'll do
that.
that. That'd be great.
Okay, then we renamed Great Bay Drive East and West, Water's Edge?
How are you gonna spell it?
With no.
Can't have,
No
they don't allow any apostrophe.
Yeah, I think Edge is acceptable.
One word?
Yeah.
One word?
And renumbered as
No,
recommended.
2 words.
It
Water's Edge.
represents all the tributaries running into Great Bay, so.
I have a practical question. Is it Water's Edge Cove? Is it Water's Edge Road?
She just said Water's Edge was
Edge
okay.
counts as it, like a
Edge.
street
Edge
counts.
is
Water's Edge.
Unless you want to add something.
Okay? All right.
Wait,
We got a motion?
I made a motion.
Excuse me.
We're still having a
Please,
Sorry.
attention. Keep the noise down here, I'm gonna kick yous all out. So, keep it down, all right. We have a motion, do you want to restate your motion? We move to rename Great Bay Drive East and West, Water's Edge Road.
No, Water's Edge. Water's Edge, period.
Water's Edge.
And
okay.
renumber as
And
recommended.
renumber is recommended. I have a motion, do I have a second on that? All in favor? Okay.
Excuse me.
One.
Can you guys do a motion just based on the numbering of Great Bay Road?
Sure.
Move to,
I'd like to, I would like to move that we also vote to renumber Great Bay Road as recommended by the 911 committee.
Second. I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
We'll move on to appointments. We have Mr. Leonard Schwab with us today representing the Historical Society, I believe.
no, Karen.
Oh, Karen. Okay, you're here representing the Historical Society.
So the Historical Society started again because of the collection of material that the Hughes family had. Now that Paul has died, his cousin has been named executor of his estate, and he would like to eventually sell the house. So all the material needs to be removed. We would like to have time to go through and make reasonable decisions about what to save and what to discard. So we approach you, thank you, Charlotte, for circulating this, but we are approaching the selectmen to ask emergency funding to rent storage space at a local facility for the collective works of the Hughes family. And then it would be a reasonable length of time, 6 months. And we already have boxes and things like that, but it would just be the funding for the storage space, and then we would move things from the house to the storage space, sort and deposit them in the town, perhaps, the town hall, in the library. At the moment, those are the 2 places that we have for permanent collections.
Okay, my question is, has this stuff that belonged to Paul, has he willed this to the Historical Society?
There was no will.
There was no, so how do you own this?
His executor has
Is this cousin?
designated it to the Historical Society.
Oh, okay, all right.
And it always was with the, when we talked with Paul, it was with the understanding that this eventually would be taken over by the Historical Society, and that the information that was worthwhile would be something that we would preserve.
Okay. Do you have any idea how much space you would need?
Well, the room that is off the town manager's office that would be a good starting idea of how much room. But, you know, he has a 2-story house, and it was filled with paper and binders and files and boxes.
I'm assuming you're climate controlled also.
Eventually, yes, very definitely.
I can tell you that Bluebird is supposed to open on Monday.
I just,
took
why not
it
take it up,
Yeah.
Dan? But really, it should be climate controlled. I've seen his collection.
We did.
It's huge.
Oh, thank you.
I would think that Bluebird might donate the space, since they're not gonna use all that space. If we let them know up front that it's a short-term, 6-month thing, they're not gonna rent out completely in 6 months, all that space down there. And it would give them some free publicity.
I agree.
Well, and certainly we'd be easy people to work with, because we'd be happy to comply with any arrangements that they could come.
You're going there tomorrow, right?
I'm going there tomorrow night, yeah.
So they're going for additional training, the fire department, so he could probably approach them tomorrow night.
I could try to get a hold of the owner who lives in Portsmouth.
Okay, all right. Any other comments?
Marcia McLaughlin, I just have one thought, Karen, on how large a space you're going to need at the storage facility in order to be able to go through materials. Have you looked into what they have available?
I just heard about Bluebird.
Oh, okay.
They have so many different
Well, yeah,
sizes, probably 4 different ones, so, and they have over 700 units.
Yes, the biggest thing
Well, I'm
is,
just-
of course, you
yeah.
have to control the documents.
Oh, yeah.
Why they didn't have a problem in that house.
Oh, right, I'm sure.
They did.
But if they donate it,
Okay, I don't think any member of the board has a problem with your moving forward with that.
Okay. All right, then who could I,
do you want to,
I'll give you my phone number before I leave,
okay,
before you leave.
like now?
all right.
You want, right?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, approval of minutes from August 6th.
Okay,
I'm the fire chief.
all right.
I move to approve the minutes of Monday, August 6th, 2018, as amended.
And I'm here, so.
Okay.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll see what I can do tomorrow, because he's not.
Under old business, Copley update.
All right.
I have nothing yet. I will be following up with what goes on at the Portsmouth City Council tonight, because there was going to be a report about that the CES engineers have determined that the PFOA, PFOS are not coming from under the capped landfill, and they were going to be presenting more information at the City Council meeting tonight. So I will be following up with that and have a report for the next meeting.
Okay, anything on your side, Paul?
Nothing additional to what you just said.
Okay. Good. All right, fire department building committee.
Old business.
Yeah, we're still on old
We're
business.
still on old business.
You're old, Paul, don't rush it.
As mentioned in our last meeting, the fire chief and I have been working on putting together a building committee for the purpose of developing a wants and needs list and developing a preliminary floor plan and scope of work. To date, including the fire chief, I've had 6 volunteers willing to serve on this committee, all of whom, in my opinion, would do well, and I appreciate their willingness to volunteer. At first I had thought that maybe we should limit this to 5 members, but I've been speaking with Karen. Karen came up with a great, what I think is a good idea, and I've run it by the chief, and he agrees with it all. We can get all 6 people to get onto this committee, but we will have only 5 people who can vote on it. So I will mention the names of the people who are willing to volunteer for this, which is Don Miller, who is a past fire chief, is on the budget committee. Leonard Schwab, Historical Society member. Paul Sanderson, a selectman and past member of almost every board this town's ever had, I think. Kevin Forrest, who is a past selectman also, and Dennis Malloy, who is our state rep and past selectman in Barrington. I think they're all very well qualified people. I think could work well with Ralph and get this thing going. So I'd very much like to like the board to approve this, and so we can move forward with it.
Do we have to identify the non-voting member?
Yeah, non-voting member would be Ralph.
The committee would be acting as advisory to the fire chief.
Right. Any comments?
We're voting on the whole board right now, or just?
All five.
Just all five? Okay.
Mr. Miller.
So move that we vote for the names Vaughn just listed.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion on it? All in favor?
I'll just abstain since I.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, well, I want to thank all of you, Dennis, Don, for volunteering for this. So, Ralph, you will head this thing up. I will get you all their numbers, email addresses, and everything else, and you can. I would ask that when you do have these meetings, if you wouldn't mind including the building inspector, because he'd like to be part of it, and he's got some ideas he'd like to share with you also.
Okay.
And of course, let me know too.
Sure.
And because this is advisory, it's still subject to the right to know, so they'd all be public meetings.
Right, but there are no minutes maintained.
Oh, yes.
Oh, so you'll have somebody there that will take notes?
One of us will do that.
Okay.
Excellent.
Good job, Paul.
All right.
I saw those eyes boring in my head.
Okay, other old business. Go ahead, Paul.
Hillside Drive.
Okay, I was about to bring that up.
Friday, the company from Bow came down. We were able to clean 100% of the pipe. Could not get the camera past 21 feet. We did find out the reason why we couldn't is Pappard's house, the connection went too far into the pipe, it caught the camera. So Pappard's and Shoup's house are still connected and being used into that piping system. At the other end, there's 20 to 30 feet of corrugated pipe, which is totally rotted. The clay pipe's in good shape. The good part is, like I said, he cleaned 100% of it out, and that thing just opened right up.
Okay,
So it's working at this point.
it is, okay, good.
Go
ahead.
The corrugated, that 20 to 30 feet has to be replaced.
Okay.
Because that's gonna close up at some point. Or we know, do we cap it? That was in the original plans. It was supposed to be capped where I put that speed limit sign. If we do that, you got two houses still draining into that.
Okay. Do we have any recommendation from the engineers?
Not yet. Like I said, this just happened Friday. He's sending the stuff out, once he does his report when he got back.
Okay, I guess for me personally, I'd like to hear what the engineers had to say before we make a choice.
All right. But
You'll get back to us on that?
as soon as Ben gets hold of me.
Okay.
But the good part about it is his water in the house just stopped.
And in addition to that, the insurance adjuster was out there and met with the property owner, toured the property. I have not gotten a report back from Prime Access yet.
Okay. All right, you keep us updated on that. Another item, do we need a replacement for Jillian Lane?
Yes, we will.
We do need one. Okay.
Liza Benella, Liza McGuckin has been recommended, as has another resident on Stone Meadow, Maria Emery.
Okay. And have they contacted you or?
Not as yet, but I haven't reached out to them either to see if
Okay.
they'd be interested.
All right, you'll follow up on that.
Yeah, I will follow up.
Okay. And another note, Paul, would you mind updating the board on the discussion that the planning board had the other night regarding the Route 33 corridor?
Sure. We actually had two important discussions that we should let everyone know about.
Okay.
The first one had to do with the CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan. We need to get that really formalized again this year because we are, on the planning board, considering the adoption of an impact fee ordinance, and having a working CIP is an absolute prerequisite to that.
Right.
So one thing we need is to be out to the various departments and have them give us CIP feedback.
To the planning, is the planning board, they want the
Yes.
feedback to the planning board?
To the planning board, so that we can create the capital improvement.
Who is the
plan.
planning board rep for the CIP?
That's a good question.
It was you at one point, wasn't it, Chip?
Yeah. You could certainly put me down as the selectman rep, because I can be the interface between the budgeting aspect and that. Second part had to do with Route 33. And we had a long discussion about the impact that the potential for new jobs at Pease might have. We know that there's 1,000 jobs that have been proposed for Lonza. We know there's 350 jobs that are being created for the Wentworth Douglas property. Revision, the military contractor, is going to be at least 100. We know that there's another building that's under consideration for even more jobs. And so what we also know is that on the Route 16 side of Pease Air Force Base, they've invested about $1 billion in transportation improvements with the various bridges, which they funded primarily because that's a turnpike. And so the toll money is what has funded that particular aspect. Over here on Route 33, we've had a zero investment. And so as a result of that, the traffic over here, we believe, is in failure. And so the recommendation we had was, before we really treat this as a legal problem, we treat it as an engineering problem first, and find out what our actual traffic condition is during the peak hours. We know that there's a peak hour problem in the morning and a peak hour problem in the afternoon. And so the request was to identify an engineering firm that would be able to do a traffic study of that, the three lights on the Route 33 corridor that are our most important bottlenecks. When we spoke to Mark Bougere, who's our planning consultant, he's from the western part of the state, he recommended VHB, that's Vanassi, Hengen, and Breslin, yes, as the engineering firm that may very well be able to do that for us. Because Ty and Bond is the one that performed traffic study work for Lonza, so we know that they're not available. So the hope was that we would be in touch with VHB and see if they could provide us that type of traffic data so that we can get involved more into the 10-year plan process. Because obviously when this new legislature gets elected, then the 10-year plan becomes part of their effort in the budgeting aspect of things. And this would be the time for us to see what improvements are necessary and what could possibly be funded.
So this is all a prerequisite to us trying to get heard. We're a small little town, and we're trying to be heard from either the PDA or the city of Portsmouth, because as everybody knows here, we are impacted.
Right, and the PDA is also looking at putting significant money into the airport and expanding the airport.
Right, on top of it all.
Right.
Right. So,
so all that, would support the idea that the transportation improvement has to be dealt with.
Yeah, I reviewed the traffic study that was done for the Lonza program, Lonza building, and it only looked at 5 intersections around that building itself. It didn't touch out onto Route 33 at all.
Okay.
okay.
So that was the work we did the other night.
Yeah. And so we're going to keep pushing on this because we just need to. Because all of a sudden we're going to get hit with this, and nobody's going to make any concessions for the little town of Greenland. So we're going to be the squeaky wheel of that.
We also recognize that the CIP is related to this too, because obviously with that many people, there'll be that many more looking to locate themselves in Greenland. So the development pressure will be substantial. and we need to look at an impact fee as a result.
Okay. For the record. Any other old business anybody would like to bring up? No. Moving on to new business, let's go over the town administrator's report.
Upon the recommendation of our IT consultant, SIG-Tide Services, we've now gone to an online backup of our server on a daily basis. So he is downloading it through a cloud system, has all the alerts set to him, so if we don't have a clean backup, he's notified and he can go online and correct it right then and there.
Okay.
So it's a much easier system than what we've been doing is the tapes, and bringing one to the police station every day and then bring another one back, rotating. So we keep the most recent off-site, but this will make life a lot easier, and it was his recommendation that we move forward on that.
Okay.
The RFP has been sent out for the annual road striping of the stop bars and the white and yellow lines. The bids are due back next week, and the work is to be completed during the month of September. Once it gets too cold, they don't stick as well. We do have both the Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental site report for the former Piscataqua trucking site where our Public Works is now, which is a potential site for the new fire station. I reviewed it, and I've had the building inspector review it as well. And the borings have all been done. The test pits are all there with what's in there. Nothing in the report, and there's places in the report that say the site is fine to be rebuilt on.
Okay.
The monitoring wells have to remain, but they're all located on where they are.
Okay, and this was your concern at the last meeting.
Yeah, I think the newly appointed committee needs to review that to see what the geotechnical.
Yep, and I'll supply those for the committee as well.
Also, I noted there, you're saying not suitable for septic.
Right, not suitable for septic. The septic, I would believe, would be routed to the large system that we have that currently is for the fire station, the town hall, and the police station. All go to the one system out behind this building.
I think there was a lot of work that was done on this entire complex, right? And so.
Yeah, it was improved.
No. I mean, there was a lot of work about dimensions of existing buildings, possible conceptual plans for change.
Yes, Underwood Engineers did that already.
And did they do test pits throughout the site?
No, they did not do test pits.
Okay, so again, we need to figure out, as one of the steps in that committee, what the potential loading would be, and then start doing the necessary test pits to see what can we actually dispose of. Because now we're talking about a building that might house 12 people, would have food service, and would have also commercial washing of turnout gear, that sort of things. So we need to see where we might dispose of that effluent. I just don't know where.
Right, and I think that the committee would have to look at take the current septic design that we have and have an engineer take a look at that to see what capacity it has.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, good.
And there's also funds still available through the Brownfields program. Because we've had the Phase 1 and 2 environmental site reports done, there is some funds that could help us with the excavation.
Good.
We've already updated on Hillside Ave. The RFP for the snowplow services has been sent out. Those bids are due back now in 2 weeks. And there was a major bus accident on Route 95. Chief Presta reported that an excellent job was done by his staff and the mutual aid companies that came. 14 people were transported between Exeter and Portsmouth Hospital with various levels of injury.
And I'd like to say congratulations for a job well done goes to Chief Preston and his crew. They did a great job. Okay, the next is a bond reduction request.
This is a request from Dorado Investments to request a bond reduction from $710,633 to $215,000, which is a reduction of $495,000. Altus Engineers, the town's planning board engineer, has reviewed the conditions and the various stages and concerns that have been raised, and he's recommending a bond reduction to no less than $340,000. The homeowners association has concerns that have been presented to the board, and this picture's about landscaping, and those have also been reviewed by Altus as well.
Okay. Any comments from the board? The bond reduction.
The envelope in front of you, Vaughn, is also with color pictures of the various lawns, drainage areas. But representatives from Dorado are present as well.
And the homeowners.
And the homeowners.
Okay, I've read through this whole thing, and I agree with, I would go along with Altus Engineering and what they approve, if anybody has anything. Other than that,
just remember, as we did with our previous bond reduction question, we can't deal with things that are outside of the area, those areas of right of way where we might potentially have responsibility. However, here, this one's a little different because this is all private rights of way. This is not going to be a town road now or hopefully ever. And so, we have some issues, but it would appear that they've got some significant problems here. The thing that's most important to me about this is that we're sitting right on top of the town's aquifer. And so we have to make sure that all of these drainage and stormwater structures are acting correctly and as engineered, because it has to do with the safety of our drinking water.
okay, one of the things that they had mentioned in the report was they were deeply concerned with one very large and important issue, that being the resolution of the dysfunctional infiltration basin.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's not strictly a roadway problem. That's dealing with safety of the aquifer.
The representative is going to speak on that.
Sure.
Joe Coronati, Jones Beach Engineers. We've looked at the pond recently. We don't have a long history of its activity. It's been inspected throughout the construction process, but that number has been line itemed for an additional $20,000 within that $340,000 for further review of the infiltration basin. So we're fine with that. We will start looking at it. We'll start going out after storms and monitoring it. We're seeing, from what we're hearing, it is filling up and infiltrating with some of these recent, heavy thunderstorms that we've had. But we will monitor it, and it'll be bonded as part of our $340,000. So
okay.
I think that's more than enough. It's sufficient to cover it.
Okay, any other comments?
I had a question also on the porous binder for the clubhouse parking lot. It's my understanding that that's supposed to be vacuumed once a year, and it was not done. What are your plans to get back into what you're supposed to be doing?
So that's the next item actually on the list is cleaning and testing porous binder for $5,000. So they've also hired Waterstone Engineering, who's Rob Rosine. He's a PhD who worked on basically on the I'll call it the invention of it, because of course they've been around a while, but the UNH Stormwater Center and the studies. So he's been consulted, he's looked at it, he'll be writing a report and doing the testing.
So it will be done every year, as it's supposed to be?
Correct, that's part of the condominium documents for their ongoing maintenance of the site.
On that last point, Dr. Rosine was the individual that consulted with the town when Target and Lowe's was constructed. So he was at the time, he was at the UNH Stormwater Center. So he is certainly an expert on porous paper.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody?
The infiltration basin, is that behind the clubhouse?
Yes. Okay.
All right. Entertain a motion.
Excuse me.
Oh, go ahead.
My name's John Guarnieri. I live at 98 Boxwood. I'm reading a note on behalf of my neighbor who cannot be here today. They're at 96 Foxwood. Frank and Kathy. It states that, Selectmen, as property owner of Boxwood Path, we have had continuing issues over the last year and a half with the drainage on our property caused by incorrect site work. There have been numerous attempts to remedy this issue, and so far, none have been successful. Several weeks ago, work was done, but the next several times it rained, we had a river out back and a lake on the side of our house. Today, Green & Company started work on another attempt to fix these drainage issues. We would like some or all of the board, or the bond, to remain in place and be designated for the possible repair of these issues if the work being done now is not sufficient. We are relying on the town engineer and the selectmen to help protect our interest in this regard. Sincerely, Frank and Kathy Gudabowski.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, my name is Chuck Murphy. I'm from Boxwood Path.
Yes.
You've gone through pretty much the engineer's report there, but you haven't mentioned the landscaping issue that we talked about here. And I don't know, I concur with John that I feel kind of disappointed if you're going to lower the bond for the landscaping aspect of it, considering the condition of it and the way it has been for the last 2 years.
What are you referring to as the landscaping?
The landscaping on all 73 homes in our community.
Yes,
Just
be a little more specific, because we didn't get a report
Well,
on you guys what's talking.
It was advertised to be beautifully landscaped home sites, maintenance-free, and multiple websites that Green & Company put up there, 4 websites. They are pretty much weed and crabgrass infested. Some lawns barely have any grass at all. Some of the lawns are, just when you put the new lawns in, they're all weeds. Everything's weeds. And they've made, minor attempts to try to get ahead of it, but these are not beautifully landscaped homes by any stretch of the imagination. And we've been, we don't want to make this contentious, we don't want to make this mean-spirited, but we've been working on this for 2 years with Green & Company, and we really have not gotten any significant results to we're looking for some kind of specific plan, we're looking for some kind of specific timetable, and then some kind of specific communication to let us know the progress of the plan. Just like the engineers have asked for.
Could either of you, any of you, address that?
Yeah, certainly, John O'Neill, one of the partners with Eric Green. We saw the difference in what Eric was looking to hold, $340,000, and what we were looking for is $210,000. And a significant amount of that was $93,000 for landscaping. We may not agree with that, but we're willing to hold out. We are absolutely going to engage landscaping and make sure it's going to be fine. As you all know, you're from this area, it's very difficult to grow grass in July and August. I have a note from my own condominium association in Windham that says, I hope to have you green and weed-free by October. As we all know, that's a good time when grass will grow. So we're not asking to get a reduction from the 340. We're totally content with that. We will provide them with a timetable when this will all be taken care of, and they will have green lawns, and it will be nice. And unfortunately, I built hundreds of homes. I think Mr. Chester will attest to this. He's a landscaper. That very difficult to grow in July and August. First year's tough, second year's better, third year is fine. And you can look at any projects we've done anywhere, and we will attest to the fact that they will be solid and good ones.
Okay.
With all due respect, exactly what John stated was told to us last summer. And the lawns this year are worse than they were last year.
Can I just throw out, more than half the neighborhood has moved in since January. Just please keep that in mind. And you're welcome to drive around the neighborhood.
Yeah, feel free to drive around. I think it looks very nice. And honestly, we are making every effort to slip seed, to fertilize, whatever it takes, we'll do. And it's worth a drive-through for your own edification.
We'd be happy to walk you through it. Happy to do it anytime you want.
Okay.
But by the same token, these are items that are not covered by the bond.
Okay.
But they're covered in their advertisements. Beautifully landscaped home sites. Welcome to maintenance-free Bramber Green.
I understand that.
Throw away your lawnmower. You'll have plenty of time to do things because you won't have to worry about landscaping anymore, quote unquote. from their original advertisements that we purchased our homes from.
That's really not in our purview though.
That doesn't come under the purview of the selectmen.
Correct.
So that is something you would have to take up with them individually. And I, with all sincerity, I know what he's talking about. I have a lawn myself, and during August, it's almost impossible. I've got to admit, this year it's been pretty green. I've had to mow it a couple of times.
But the Sagamore Golf Course, they have exactly the same weather we do. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
A little more than 2 years old.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, we are going to deal with what we are allowed to deal with by law here. So, which we will.
So the bond issue does not pertain to our lawns?
No.
No.
Simply put, it's the stuff the town would have put in the electrical, underground electrical, roads, sidewalks,
How's that landscaping?
There is required landscaping in the plan to be installed.
Is that correct, Karen?
Okay. But as far as lawns go, no.
I never heard that about landscaping.
Well, and what I'm not clear about here is, if you take a look at Altus's report, there was supposed to be a landscape bond, there was no landscape bond. And so the total bond includes landscaping.
Right, 93,000.
Okay. And so, yes, we are dealing with landscaping.
But you're lowering the bond from 202 down to 93.
No.
No, we're not.
From 710 to 340.
340.
That's
The engineer's report talks about the landscaping bond being 202, and now it's 93.
Except that everything was put together into one single bond. There was no separate landscaping bond.
It's in the engineer's report.
I understand. Do you have a suggestion what we should do?
What I said, just like the engineer's report says, we need a specific plan, not a Band-Aid on an open wound. We need a specific plan of how we're going to fix this and how we're going to avoid it, repeating it again next summer.
So are you
And then we'd like communication on a regular basis of what they're doing, when they're doing it, and how the progress is going.
Are you advocating tonight that we shouldn't reduce the bond at all?
Correct. And that's pretty universally felt throughout our neighborhood.
I personally, I feel that the reduction to 340 would cover the landscaping issues. That's my own personal feeling. I don't know if the rest of the board has any.
The landscaping issues, are we talking about on the common areas, 93,000? I mean, we're not talking about private yards.
Actually,
Well, it's either
Eric
common areas or
stood
limited
out,
areas.
Dennis Moulton stood out and said, listen, I think there's some areas that are not stabilized. So for that reason, I'm putting $93,000 for landscaping. We don't agree with that. However, in good faith, we are accepting that $93,000 to be added on to the 219 to get to 340. We can argue, we don't, this is not the place for it. It's a civil situation. You guys have a public situation you have to deal with, and that's a civil situation that we'll deal with that personally. But it's not, this isn't the place for the selectmen, unless I'm wrong, I'm not a lawyer, but this is a bond reduction based upon a recommendation from your engineer and my engineer. And we're accepting the worst of the two, we're not arguing.
And the difference here is that because we're not dealing with a public road, if we were dealing with a public road situation, the way we did recently on Van Etten, that was clear. This really is the entire project. But I have to agree with what the chairman said. I think they have done substantial work on the project, and some reduction is warranted. So I'm certainly willing for myself to accept the number that's been proposed by our town engineer, because they're going to be involved as we go through the rest of this, getting it to the end.
Which I think will cover what it is you're addressing.
Well, I'm confused because you're saying it doesn't pertain to our lawns, but then you're saying it's going to help us. I'm confused.
Well, you say that the entire bond.
Landscaping here,
yeah,
okay, is part of the work that they're responsible for, and it is part of this particular bond. This is unusual because it's a condominium, and a privately owned roadway. So the entire site is covered by this bond.
All right.
So the bond will not be fully released until the entire site has been built in accordance with the planning board approvals.
Okay, all right.
Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that every owner is going to be happy. It does mean that it has to be built in accordance with planning board approvals.
Okay.
And I believe that's what our town engineer is evaluating. You know, is the percentage of completion for planning board approval requirements.
Okay.
Not owner satisfaction requirements.
All right, okay.
The engineers have confirmed what we've said.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Before you mentioned that safety is your prime concern on all this, how is this affecting the aquafilter you were talking about before? Is this completely safe now in what we're talking about?
The answer to that is we don't know till our engineer gives us an opinion.
Okay, so the bond that you're proposing, if indeed it wasn't applicable or is not enough, or until you get an opinion, do you want to then readdress that?
The area that they're talking about, our engineer has suggested funds in that 340,000 that would be available to deal with whatever corrections are required in that infiltration pond area.
Yeah,
Okay, so
they've
you're not
included
worried about the
20,000.
aquafilter?
No, they've included 20,000 to rebuild that infiltration basin.
Which will take care of any concerns with the aquafilter?
At that point, it will be working as designed.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're confirmed they're gonna do that.
They won't release the bond.
That's right.
But it's not confirmed there's anything wrong with it. It's not confirmed yet if there's anything wrong with the pond.
No.
Right, just so you guys understand, and I think you probably do, but the pond by the clubhouse, after a major rain event, is supposed to drain down in approximately 72 hours. In 48 hours, it has 4 inches of water in it from Saturday's storm. So it actually is working, it's just nobody has documented it. So if it's not, it should be completely drained out by tomorrow. Not tomorrow, what time, I couldn't tell you, but tomorrow. But it's not sitting there with 2 feet of water 3 days later.
So does that change what the engineer is recommending then?
There may not need to be anything done. The point is, even the engineer hasn't timed it. We actually timed it the last couple of storms after he brought this up.
He seemed pretty definitive about what he expected.
And he said money aside for it.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the bond reduction request to $340,000 as recommended by Altus Engineering.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you just pass that other bond to sign, please?
Yes.
Okay, land use change tax releases.
These are for 2 lots on Selby Way at $17,500 each with a warrant for the tax collector for that combined, $35,000.
Any questions? A motion?
I move to approve the current use releases for 36 CB Way and 40 CB Way.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
There's 3 sheets to sign.
Okay, while we're signing these, let's go into the legislative policy representative.
Okay, this is the annual Legislative Policy Conference that will be held Friday, September 15th at NHMA. I generally have attended it each year. The town is entitled to 1 vote of the policies. So the town can appoint myself or any other selectman that wishes to attend to be the official voting delegate. And at the next meeting, we'll have I'll print out the whole list with recommendations on whether to support or not to support. And generally, the board goes through them and tells me which way to decide.
Okay, a motion to appoint the town administrator.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, this just needs to be signed by the chairman as well.
All right, the next item is the MS 34.
The MS 434 is, that's all right. They used to all be MS 45 and they've added these extra numbers for some reason.
Jesus.
Right, well, it's computerized now. Is the revised estimated revenues. In March, when we do the budget, we estimate revenues at that time. And then September 1st, by September 1st, we have to submit revised revenues. And then again, at the town meeting, town tax rate setting, we'll have one more opportunity to fine tune the revenues a little bit more. This estimate is $146,000 less than what was anticipated at town meeting. And there's two reasons. One is land use change tax. I had anticipated $175,000 for land use change tax, all 10 lots of CV Way. These two bring it to 4. And the way they're doing the development and it's not moving as quickly, the remainder of the lots still qualify for current use. And the other reduction was in building permits. The building department has slowed down significantly. We had estimated building permits in at 90,000 and it's going to come in, I think we're just a tick over 45 now. So we're estimating, brought that estimate down to 60, I believe. I brought it down to 50. This building has just slowed way down.
How are motor vehicles doing?
Motor vehicles, I did not change. We estimate them at 1.2 million. Last year we came in just a tick over 1.2.
Okay, and we're still on track for that?
We're still on track for that. It doesn't show in the revenue reports that you get. It'll show we're supposed to be at like 58% and it comes in like at 53. But November is a big leased month. And all of a sudden we hit the target with the leases.
Okay, a motion to approve the MS 434.
I'll move we approve the MS 434 as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
MS1.
Yeah, this is the next one. The final report is ready and I passed it out for you in front of your places tonight. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it to you for the packets. This is the report that is based on the value of the town. And I'm trying to find my original to have you sign. The assessor came in on Friday and did the final adjustments with the revaluation. So at that point is when the MS1 numbers were finalized. Yes, but the one for you to sign doesn't say draft all over it, so I need to pull that out. Yours doesn't, right?
No.
But it shows that the valuation of the town is now, the net valuation is $854,111,000. Utilities dropped a little bit this year, basically due to the automatic depreciation that's now being done, but it's $23,734,500. Our exemption values increased this year to $2,232,500. More of our residents aged into the higher category. We only have one in the middle category right now. And veterans exemptions increased to $129,500. Last year they were $122,000. The big concern had been throughout the state what the impact of the all veterans credit was going to be, because there was no way to know how many people would qualify. And as of this point in Greenland, we have 19 of the all veterans credits compared to 196 of the regular veterans credits. So it's not been a massive impact. And just as a heads up to start thinking about it, legislation was approved to increase the limits for veterans credits. Currently, we're at the highest of 500 for a regular or an all veterans credit. The new limit is $1,000. And the $2,000 for a surviving spouse or a total 100% disability, that $2,000 can now be up to $4,000. So I have done the impact when we get closer to warrant articles on what if the board voted to go part way up or all the way up, what that impact would be on the tax rate.
Okay.
So we're here now at 854 million. What were we before our reval?
738.
Okay, that's the key difference.
Yeah,
150 million. Probably.
Yeah, 13%. Yep. And I'm just going to run and grab the original that I made your copies on. Did we already motion and vote while I wasn't looking?
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay.
No, we're waiting for it.
Chip's ready to sign them, like, did I miss it?
We did vote for the MS 434, but not the MS 1. So
Right,
therefore,
correct.
I move that we approve the MS 1 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, all in favor? Motion passed.
And this everybody signed.
Okay, 2019, what?
Question for our legislative representative. On the veterans change, is that for, in other words, it won't be the same for the general veteran as for the other?
Right.
There'll be a differential?
Yeah. And I believe that was the maximum you could go to. You have, it's a range in there, you can't go above that number, but you as a select board can determine the amount of any individual. I believe that was allowed in the
Then I think we have to put it to the town by warrant
Right.
article.
Yes, that's correct. It has to be approved. So it's really, this was a,
Right.
it's a voted, it's the voters.
Right, but the statute also said that if you offer that optional all veterans credit, it must be for the same amount as your veterans credit.
I'd have to review, yeah, that could very well be the case.
Well,
you can
research this,
Yeah.
you know, okay.
Right.
All right. All right, 2019 budget schedule.
Okay, I met this morning with the chairman, Mr. Krasko, along with Amy Ranson from the school committee, school SAU, to work on the budget schedule to finalize things. The requests have gone out to the budget, to all the department heads and boards and committees to prepare the budget to get to myself with their backup documentation by September 21st. That will give me a week or so to prepare it, to give it to the selectmen on September 28th. The first review for the selectmen will be on October 1st, and then the following meeting, October 15th. So department heads will make their presentations on those 2 consecutive meetings. I have scheduled at this point for you the following meeting on the 22nd, which is not a regular meeting date, for budget review only, followed by the next meeting for the budget final review. So it would give the selectmen 4 meetings on the budget. The budget committee has requested it by November 9th. So that gives the 10 days, 11 days between the Board of Selectmen's final review and prepare the books for the budget committee. We met today and decided, the budget committee decided that the school would go first, the town would go first because the school wasn't going to be able to get their budgets to the budget committee until November 21st, based on their schedule. So Tuesday, November 13th will be the first town budget committee review. followed the following week by school, then back to town, and then school. So it'll be 4 Thursdays in a row, town, school, town, school. And then December 11th would be the review of both of the budgets. Basically, the final review, answering questions by the Budget Committee. And then Tuesday, January 8th, would be the final recommendations with the warrant articles. Public hearing the following day, Wednesday the 9th.
Okay.
The last day for warrant articles is Tuesday the 8th. So if we haven't gotten any, if the board will meet on Monday the 7th, if we get anyone that comes in, the 4:30, 5 o'clock on the Tuesday, we can meet, the board can meet for 15 minutes or so. We can post a meeting for just prior to the public hearing at the school to make a decision on anything that happens in that next 24 hours.
Okay. All right.
To the extent it helps any for preparation at this point for guidance, for discussion purposes, I'd like to put out this. We're SB2 and people are getting used to SB2 a little bit more. So I think what's important for us to see in our first initial reviews is our default budget.
Okay.
And so if department heads want to have a deviation from that default budget,
And there's new laws regarding the default budget.
yeah, always. But what I'm really looking at in my review is if a department head wants to deviate from the default, fine, but just come in and explain why and what the amount would be. And then I think we've always given guidance as to what we think salaries might be. And I think this year we might want to look at 1.5%.
Based on?
Based upon state employees, and that seems to be a will across the state, looking hard at 1.5%. We've had very low inflation. I understand we're a little bit different. If another number is what you want to look at for guidance, that's fine. But what I'm trying to do is just say that's an initial perspective.
I get a monthly report on what it's projected to be for as far as cost of living raises, and it's 2.9% already.
Yeah.
Actually, energy costs. What was recommended last year? 3? 2?
Yeah.
And it ended up being 2.5.
I'd like to take your report and give it to the governor, but I don't think it would be
And
received
then
very
3s.
well.
I can't remember. It wasn't all even.
But anyway, I think if we look at ourselves as varying from the default budget, that will be a helpful way to look at it and a good way for the budget committee.
A good basis to go by, yeah. All right. Okay. All right, Labor Day meeting.
Yeah, obviously, the next Board of Selectmen's meeting is scheduled for Monday, September 3rd, which is Labor Day. So we can move the meeting to Tuesday, September 4th, and authorize the bookkeeper to process payroll in advance of the board's approval.
That is fine. I can't be there because I have to do public hearings that night, but if you're 4 or 5, that's fine.
I'm available, so it's up to you, whatever you want to do.
I move to change the Board of Selectmen meeting to Tuesday, September 4th, 2018. Bookkeeper may call payroll in early. It will be approved at the meeting on Tuesday, September 4th, 2018.
Second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Any other new business anybody would like to discuss?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
I've been watching the nightly news, and every night it seems that there's some moron of a police officer that does some outlandish thing, and I wonder if we get any, ever reviewed what our policies are. I mean, last night it was a police officer driving a cruiser into a kid who was being chased because he didn't have a light on his bicycle. And naturally whacked the kid and sent him flying. I trust our people, but I've just want to make sure that we've got some type of training or some type of policy as far as the amount of force that they're going to use for a minor infraction.
And you know, that's just to go on into Tara and see what she says. I know she's constantly training these people.
Okay, well,
They're going out and training all the time, but specifics, I'm sure she would not tell one of our officers, or I'm sure one of our officers, I just can't imagine that.
well, I can't either, but it happens every night, multiple times across the country.
Yeah. Well, talk to Tara, and you know, if she feels any other training is necessary, she'll come to me and we'll.
Well, you can't teach common sense, unfortunately. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else under new business?
No.
All right, let's go to payroll. Our accounts payable.
I move we approve the attached manifest of unpaid bills detail as of August 23rd, 2018, in the amount of $103.64. That's the fire and safety revolving fund.
Second?
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next.
I move we approve the attached manifest of unpaid bills detail as of August 23rd, 2018, in the amount of $635,968.16. Greenland School District payment of $500,000 for the 2018-2019 school year is included in this manifest.
We have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Any, oh, we got
There's another little one.
Yeah.
War and Peace.
War and Peace, yeah, right?
Oh, and under other new business, I'm sorry, I forgot, I have an email that came in tonight from Tim Collins, letting the board know that he would be resigning as emergency management director.
Oh, no.
He has a project that starts in October, and he will not be in the area for extended periods of time. He is working on a subdivision in Montana and building a house. He believes Don Miller would be a good replacement, but he has not mentioned it to him, and he has plenty of time to help whoever is chosen for all the billing.
Okay. All right.
But so if anyone's interested in being EMD,
I think John would be a good choice.
I have one question, because I missed that one meeting. Is the school gonna change their schedule to shut down the school to kids?
Decided that, I don't believe.
Yeah, it's a teacher's workshop day.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
For the school board.
For the November election, you're saying?
For the primary.
For the primary, on September 11th?
September 11th, there's no students in the building, just teachers.
Okay.
Because I was,
But we don't know about the general election date in November, right?
Not concrete, but I would assume it's gonna stay.
Yeah. Well, the election will stay, but I don't know about the school too.
Right, and I think it's gonna be the same type of thing, we're gonna coordinate some kind of a teacher's workshop or whatever they call it these days.
number one, that worked great with no kids in the building. Number two, made me feel a little bit more safe with the kids out of the building, everybody wandering around.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I move we approve the attached payroll number 17, pay date August 23rd, 2018, for August 6th through and including August 19th, 2018, gross amount excluding payroll liabilities of $52,764.04.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, anything else anybody like to bring up?
We didn't do anything.
Nope.
Second.
Move we adjourn.
Second. Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.